Welcome back to the Glow Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. All right, let's welcome Matt to the show. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, thanks for having me. So good to
Awesome.
be here with you.
Yes, I'm so glad you're here. So, why don't we get started by having you tell the audience listening or watching who you are and what you do?
Sounds good. I'm Matt. It kind of feels funny to say it like this, but I'm 41-year-old male. I live in Los Angeles and I am a coach. I honestly don't love the word. You can hear my hesitation in my voice. I'm getting a little bit kind of like grossed out by the coaching industry a bit. And I consider myself a mentor or even a guide, but still, I kind of like to say coach for clarity. But about 8 years ago, I started a business and it was a consulting business helping consumer products out with sales and marketing. I'd been in the industry for a long time. And immediately when I started the business, I was worrying out of control. I had no idea why. I'd always been a worrier and just kind of like thought that was part of my life. So it got bad, really bad. I was very depressed and I went to the doctor and she found out I had high blood pressure. And no surprise, I was smoking a pack of cigarettes a day and drinking and smoking marijuana to calm my nerves and all that fun stuff. And then eventually things got really bad and I ended up in the hospital a couple of times thinking I was dying of a heart attack. Yeah, it was insane. And it all set me down a path of having to address my childhood wounds, and of which I had a lot of. And
Mm.
went on a big journey to heal and went through a lot of coaching myself, therapy, and became a yoga teacher and did a lot of work on myself. And I wrote a book. And in the process, I grew my business to where I grew it to where I was making $1 million a year. And I don't say that to brag. I mean, it's the power of the work. It's the power of getting help and doing the work to heal and grow. And then about 6 months ago, I left it. I'd done the work and I realized that this wasn't fulfilling me and I wanted to do something more of service and live in my authenticity and my values. And it's driven me to this mentorship world and helping others grow their businesses and change their lives, but also really come home to themselves. So
Oh, wow. I actually thank you so much for sharing that. There was a lot in there, and I hope we're able to sort of unpack through a lot of it. But thank you, first of all, just for your transparency, because I feel like, especially when people are entrepreneurs, that comes with like already like a level of anxiety for some people, right? And just trying to grow a business, take care of themselves. That's the business. And then you just got real life along with that. It's just trying to exist as a human in a space every day. Let's talk about your journey. So as you start to talk about like doing the work, I think that's one of the things that's most important, right? In any person's journey is when we realize that like we have to take a break and we have to heal and figure out, like I think you mentioned like you had to go back to your childhood traumas and you had to heal from that. And what do you say like can you talk some about that? Because I know there are probably people who might be watching, listening us, and they may be already starting to connect to things that you've said. But what was it like? How, taking that step to go back into the past?
Um, yeah, thank you for all you said right now. And it was hard, I mean, I think that the more that I talk about this and help my clients through this, like, I mean, all of our parents generally did their best, and there's some small exceptions, but all of our parents loved us, I mean, very, very rare occasions did somebody actually like not love their child at a young age. And for us, as grown adults maturing, realizing that there are scars from what happened during childhood, it's very hard to like turn against your family. And at the same time, for many of us, it's necessary. It's not necessarily that we need to turn on them and accuse them of things, but we need to prioritize ourselves. And I resisted it for a while. And I was in couples therapy with my partner one night, and we realized that, she was saying, Matt, tell David what you need, tell David what you need. And I was like, I can't tell him what I need. And she was like, Matt, tell him, and she's like pushing me. And she was kind of aggressive, but we had developed a level of trust.
Hmm.
And I didn't feel like it was too much or anything, but I started crying. And then she's like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I pushed you too far. And I was like, no, no, no. She was just like, "I thought that you, like, had worked on this with your own therapist already," and we realized that I couldn't tell my partner what I needed because I was afraid of admitting what I needed because when I've admitted what I needed in the past, I was, admonished for it, I was punished for
Mhm,
it.
mhm,
And once that happened, it became apparent that there was no denying that I'd have to go back and really uncover where these things came from. And to be
mhm.
honest, like, it was hard, but at the same time, it was so freeing at the same time.
Right.
And so much of it wasn't about being like angry at somebody else. It was just like understanding why I was the way I was. It's really
Mhm,
actually, I'm like hearing you ask this question right now. It's kind of like hitting in a weird spot because it's so in the past,
mhm,
like, and it was like, I mean, it was challenging, but at the same time, like, if I didn't go back and do this, like, I would not be who I am today.
mhm,
And I hit and it's not that I had to be, like, angry or blame somebody. I just needed to get to know myself. And as I, like, really talk about this, a lot of stuff happened at home, but more of it happened at school. Like, I had no friends for, like, my
mhm,
entire growing up until I was in, like, 15 years old. So, it wasn't like home. I mean, I grew up in a very clean house. I knew I was loved.
mhm.
There was food on the table. There was, Christmas gifts, and there was also a lot of overwhelm and a lot of money was very scarce. But yeah, I mean, I just had always assumed this role of where it was my job to carry the world's burden on my shoulders.
Mm, mhm. Yes, yes.
And I had to unpack that and relearn that it's not my responsibility to carry the world's burden on
Mhm,
my shoulders.
mhm,
But deeper than that, and this is kind of like what I'm more excited about, I've been like sharing and coaching and mentoring for a couple of years now.
mhm,
And I'm at this point where I'm more proud of the fact that I just left this job. Maybe I shouldn't say more proud, but I'm at this next kind of phase of my life where all of this healing work that I did
mhm.
to get to know myself and make peace with myself and love myself, it's now really paying off in a massive way because
Right.
I'm really aligning my life with
Mhm,
how I want it to be. And
mhm.
I'm not going to say it's easy, but something's changed. Like,
Mhm.
I know I'm going to be okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know I'm going to be okay.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that you shared that. And you mentioned something that I think is so true in so many families, right? I think anytime a child begins like going through therapy and the healing process, the parents immediately think we did something wrong. And I just like sort of remember when I started therapy some years ago, like my parents both being kind of weird about it. I was like, that's nothing to do with you.
Mhm,
It's just I need to work through some things that like while I'm thinking that it's all about my current day and present day life is actually who I've been from a child. And so I'm just working through some of that stuff right now. And it has nothing to do with what you all did or you didn't do. And so I think that's really important because I think more people than not deal with that. And a lot of people don't actually get the help they need because they feel like, oh, I'm going to be letting somebody down in my family because I'm reaching out to do the work. And I think, especially coming from being like someone who's like a Gen Xer, that just wasn't like the thing that we did, like the parents, boomers, they didn't get therapy, So it's like when you are talking about like doing this work in your life. But I think you made one thing very clear that I definitely agree with. At some point, you have to prioritize yourself. And like prioritizing you means that, yeah, somebody else may be uncomfortable with it, but like I don't care because in order for me to heal and for me to live a life of abundance, I have to do things for myself and
mhm.
put me first.
I totally, yeah. I mean, and what I've seen been my experience, and I think this, like, if nothing else, like for anybody that's struggling right now, like with family situations, I have found it to be true that there was a lot of ignorance. People didn't know how to do this, and I'm showing people in my family how to
Mhm,
do this. And, things aren't perfect. There's things that I have like learned to not bring up, but
mhm,
there's more than anything, I've learned to be comfortable and confident in myself, and I'm seeing
Mhm,
I'm seeing growth happen in my parents and other people
mhm,
of their generation in our family because we're showing them how. We're showing them to
mhm,
set boundaries and, like, you know, my mom, for example, she's coming over for dinner tomorrow night. She comes over and stays a night once every, like, 6 weeks or so, and it's really nice
mhm.
after, like, we had it wasn't always like this.
Yeah.
And, like, I can just kinda, like, feel now, like, if she knows that if she needs to cancel, like, tomorrow morning, that's
Mhm,
totally fine. Where, like, there was this, like, codependency that I think affects a lot of families where everyone's just sort of walking on eggshells, and, like,
mhm.
same for me, if I need to cancel tomorrow, I know that I'd be just fine too because we have learned we're not reliant on one another
Right.
or our own for each other's happiness. Like, life comes
Mhm,
up, and when we prioritize ourself, it's not being selfish. I can speak firsthand that, like, the more that I take care of myself, the more I'm
mhm.
able to show up and be pleasant and happy and rested. And I'm, like, to the point, like, where if I meet a new friend, like, and I this comes up, like, I'm kind of like, you can cancel on me. Like, if we have dinner plans on a Friday night and at
Mhm.
4 p.m. you see that you don't want to do something, like, cancel. It's I get my night to sit in front of the TV.
Yes.
You should take care of yourself, don't
Yes.
cancel on a wedding or something unless you have to,
Right.
but, like.
Yeah. But yeah, like if it's just a hangout session or a dinner or something, like it's perfectly fine. I love that. And I'm glad you said that because I think so many people like feel this pressure all the time to like when they're overextended, they're already overextended, they feel overwhelmed, they really don't and can't do something, but then they're just like trying to push through it. And it's just like most times the person on the other end, like, well, yes, people will want to hang out and see each other, but they also understand. It's like,
Mhm,
we all have lives and lives get busy and people weeks are long. And so it's okay to just say, like, we'll pick it up next time. Let's do it next
mhm.
week. Something you mentioned when you were speaking earlier about just the importance of valuing ourselves, especially in relationships, and how part of that really, right, is setting healthy boundaries. And I love how you spoke about when you were talking about being in counseling with your partner and how the counselor asked you to talk about your needs. Now, do you think that part of like your journey and growth of like understanding yourself more has now allowed for you to be able to really like value you first? What type of boundaries have you had to set in order to get to this place?
I think that it's interesting because my life right now is so much more about me aligning
Mhm,
my life with what I authentically need. And when I look back to, like, I mean, this business that I had, like, it's very interesting. I wrote a book, a kind of a memoir it's not out yet, and I'm still kind of figuring that part out. But, like, I'm writing because writing actually helps me so much understand what I'm thinking, understand my story. And during this journey that I'm on at this moment, I left this massively nice paycheck behind,
mhm,
and I started writing a book about it because it's like I think that as I'm working with clients, the people that are coming to me a lot are people that, like, they've checked all the boxes and they,
mhm,
are still feeling like something is lacking. And it's really interesting because this came up with a client today. She said, or we agree, we kind of like bounced the ball back and forth. And, like, this was, I think, what I said. And she was like, oh my God. And it was like, I've never had the luxury of discernment.
mm,
And, like, when we are in this survival mode, like,
mhm.
we're surviving,
Yeah.
and when you start to, like, be able to be discerning, when you get to say when you start saying no to things, like, you realize how much more there is to life than survival,
Right.
how much more there is than just making money and putting food on the table. And, like, you get to start, like, actually, like, I've always wanted to be an artist, and, I mean, that's possible if I, like, do these things. I can start pursuing these things. And my life has never felt the way that it feels today, and
Mhm,
it's because I have gotten to know myself and I'm giving myself what I need.
mhm,
And you asked about boundaries.
mhm,
Boundaries. So here's what I say about boundaries.
mhm,
Boundaries have an immediate payoff because when you set them, you're getting yourself out of a probably pretty crappy situation.
Mhm.
And if somebody blows up at you, that is information that you have to listen to. There is never a situation when you're telling somebody, "Hey, like I feel you're taking advantage of me, or I feel too mentally or physically exhausted to do this." That person should not be blowing up at you. They might say, "Hey, like, this is your job. You are hired to do this. Like, let's have a chat and figure out how we can do this. Is this just a bad day or whatever?" But when somebody is compassionately setting a boundary, it's supposed to be responded to compassionately. And the thing is, when you're setting these boundaries, like this hit me a couple of months ago. I was setting a boundary and I was like, holy heck, Matt, like this is a boundary 100 times as big as the ones that you used to set 5 years ago that you were like, you couldn't sleep because you were so worried about telling somebody, no, I'm not going to do this thing that's not actually my job in the first place. And
Right.
we start to like you have to I mean, this is honestly like as I'm like this has been one of the hardest lessons to learn for somebody like me who's a people pleaser. And as I've shifted my business from working with companies to really more working with individuals, I
Mhm.
have like this has been a little painful, a lot painful, because I've like again, I've had to like learn what to say no to, and everything I want is on the other side of what I say no to, and I keep telling myself like, "Well, this person might wanna work with me, or this person might need my help, or this person might or I believe in her. One of these days she's gonna come around and actually wanna do the work." And then what I've seen now that's happened, like, in my business, like, this month is, like, the first month it's been about 6 months, and it's the first month I'm really gonna hit and even exceed my revenue goals, I think, because I've said no to the wrong
Mhm.
things and started saying yes to the right things.
Awesome. Love that. Yeah, setting those boundaries is good. And especially like you mentioned, when you are a people pleaser, it is hard. And something you mentioned earlier is like feeling like you have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. And I think that it happens a lot. I mean, I'm a reformed people pleaser myself. I mean, I went into therapy because I didn't have boundaries and I was saying yes to helping everybody all the time. And then it is a beautiful thing when you begin to say yes to the things that feel right to you versus just doing all the things. And it just sort of like opens up this like you're like, oh, wow, this is how it can be. And I think people, it can be like even like really, small things. Like I look at one for myself when I first started this podcast, like I have a day job too. And when I started this podcast, I originally was like recording on Saturdays all the time. So it was just like literally every Saturday of my life, I was recording podcasts. And then I just had like no time to ever like do anything on the weekends, like if I wanted to get up and go to the bookstore, go to the library or something, it would be like, oh man, I already got a podcast schedule. And so last year I set like this hard boundary. I said, you know what? Actually, a couple of things. I said, one, I'm going to take a month off before I record, like at some point in the year, and take a month off in November. So I have all of November off and then start back mid-December for the next year. And then I said, and I'm going to do Wednesdays. And before, I remember being so afraid in the beginning because I was like, well, if I don't do it on Saturdays, I'm probably not going to get people and blah, blah, blah. And then even when I went to Wednesday, it was like, well, I know if I pick Wednesday after work, there are going to be some people who Wednesdays don't work for. But then I had to like really say, I was like, but no, this is what you need to do. You
Mhm,
can't be doing, like I have certain nights that I work on certain things. And I was like, can't just be recording all willy nilly all the time. And now that I have my Saturdays back, it's been so amazing. I'm like,
mhm,
I get to go to bed on Friday night, like as late as I want, because I don't have to get up early and record. But it's like something very small, might seem very small to people listening or watching, but it has had such a tremendous like impact in my life because I know like, oh, I'm recording tonight and then that leaves me free to do the other business. So
mhm.
I
I'm glad
just
you shared that.
yeah.
And by the way, I don't record on Saturdays, so unless you're like Mel Robbins or something, maybe I make an exception. But yeah, I mean, I might like, and that's kind of my boundary is my
Mhm.
weekends are very, I don't mind doing some creative work or like some catch up stuff on my terms, but
Yeah.
I hear you. The
Yeah.
weekend, like, it's been interesting, like, the more I don't know if I'm just kinda like that red Toyota thing when you think of a red Toyota, you start seeing them around town,
Yeah.
but I don't read a whole lot of business I mean, I read a bit I mean, I have a stack of books I'm always reading, but I'm not, like, glued to a business book nonstop, but,
Mhm.
like, the past 3 business books I've read, they've all really preached the importance of taking downtime, like, this is, like,
Mhm.
super successful people that are saying, like, "I do not work 7 days a week," and,
Right. Yeah.
I've really done my absolute best to implement that even in this time where I'm building something new, and
Mhm.
I'm really and it's interesting, you know, like, I don't, like, posture myself as this, like, coach, mentor, guide, whatever we wanna call me, who has everything in life figured out. When
Right.
I look back to the people who have helped me the most, it's the people who have been vulnerable and let me into their life, like,
Mhm.
my coach that I work with, like, she was going through something, and she was like, "I just want a cigarette," and she just had a cigarette one time in, like, 10 years, you know? She had
Mhm.
2 puffs and threw it away, but I was like made me feel so, like and I don't smoke anymore, by the way, but it just made me feel so, like, normal, like, we all none of
Mhm.
us are perfect, and the same thing as you said right now, like, building something like, building this business for me right now, it has been a lot more challenging than I guess I've never really put this completely together. It's been a lot more challenging than I expected, and
Mhm.
it's not that it's hard, like, the work isn't hard. The hardest thing, it's I mean, I put this together, but exactly what we're saying. The hardest part is the boundaries. It's like setting a
Mhm.
new set of boundaries, and it's like what to say no to, so I can say yes to other things that are more important
Yeah.
more important specifically in the sense of moving my mission forward, and
Mhm.
I'm kinda challenging myself right now, so I've done something I'm a little bit, like a little bit kind of a lot grossed out by this coaching world, and I've caught myself kind of trying to fit myself into the same box that a lot of other coaches are doing, and so as I've gotten to really become acquainted with myself, I realized how much I love cooking, like,
Mhm.
love cooking. I mean, this is my passion, and, you know, I'm kind of like a coach who's also building a cooking business thing
Oh,
of my
nice.
own to show
Yeah.
people, like, what it's like to follow their dreams, and so
Mhm.
I've started this thing. Like today, actually, I had a business meeting over lunch. I invited him to my house and I cooked for him.
Oh, nice.
Tomorrow, my mom's coming over for dinner. I'm cooking for her. And on
Mhm.
Friday, I have a group of about 12 people coming over for what I call the Friday Brunch Club that I'm
Oh,
hosting
nice.
entrepreneurs in my house. And I this week the dog is a little sick right now. I have to go do something with him tomorrow, and just this week is very busy. And I told myself the other day, I was like, Matt, you better like you better like enjoy this. You know, I mean, you said that if you were gonna be able to spend your time cooking, then you were gonna be happy. So here we are, buddy. You have all of this like going on. You have people coming to your house, you get
Mhm.
to entertain them. And in order to be content and happy and not be overwhelmed these next 3 days, I'm going to need to say no to a lot more things than what I originally planned to.
Mhm.
And it's hard, and I think the best advice I can offer is it's a practice, and there is an
Yeah.
element of weekly reviewing that needs to happen.
Mhm. Mhm.
Working with a coach has been I work with a coach, and I've literally had to be like, "I can't believe that I help other people with this, but, like, I need help with it too."
Of course, yes.
And
And that's important because I think when people do that attracts people to people who are continuing to do the work. Because, like you said, we don't have it figured out. So it's like, yes, I want to know that, like, my coach is being coached by somebody and my therapist is seeing somebody. Like, all those things, like, matter because then you know that, like, oh, yeah, they're not perfect. They don't have it all together and they go through the same things that we go through.
we're all
And so,
going
yeah,
we're all going through it. I mean,
yeah.
and I think, like, we don't ever reach a spot where it's done. I think,
Mhm.
you know, my business friend that came over today for lunch, he asked me, he was doing like kind of some work with me, helping me, like, it was honestly kind of like a coaching session of sorts, and kind of helping me like uncover just get some clarity on like where I'm heading with my professional and personal life. And he asked me, he was like, "Are you going to therapy?" Because we uncovered some childhood stuff that was there,
Mhm.
and not I mean, no surprise, there's plenty there still. But,
Mhm.
it was really interesting to be like and I am going to therapy, but, like, I don't like go to therapy every single week. I go to therapy twice a week. Some weeks I go to therapy, 3 times a month. I mean, generally I go probably an average of 4 times a month. But
Mhm,
I started thinking about, like, I was like, I don't really need to go to therapy with like this regularity because I'm able to sort of self service myself through
mhm,
journaling and through even this conversation. Like, you kind of start developing this growth mindset and you
mhm,
can engage in conversations with other growth oriented people and kind of
mhm.
continuing growing and
Exactly, yeah,
yeah.
I love that. Alright, now, so you mentioned so you've set some boundaries as far as, like, your life and creating the life that you want. How do you achieve a 20-hour work week and maintain your high productivity? Because I can already tell, like, you are somebody who handles business.
It's so funny to hear people say that. I mean, I accept that. Thank you. But yeah, like somebody told me yesterday, like you're like you're the most productive, like high performing people I've ever met. And I'm like, really? Like, I mean, it was kind of like a mentor. I was like, really? I think it's kind of funny to hear you say that. And just in transparency, I mean, as I'm building this new thing,
Mhm,
and it's not just coaching. I mean, I'm writing. I have a podcast too that like I had to set aside for a second, not because I couldn't handle it. And I'm not saying that to like as a cop out. I'm saying it because what I realized was, I guess this is a boundary. I mean, or some sort of, I mean, it's saying no. I realized that like this was kind of going in a direction that I wasn't really sure. Like, why am I
mhm.
doing something just to do it? It needed to
Right.
simmer for a second,
Mhm,
and it's been simmering for like 40 days. So it's not, which is, I mean, I hate it because I like consistency. I think consistency is
mhm,
great, but I think that like the clarity comes before consistency. And there's something that, and my goal when I started the podcast was to get going and then to get good.
mhm,
And so I think I achieved the goal of getting going, and getting good means that I
mhm,
need to kind of simmer for a second. But it's interesting, like, as I'm building this new thing, I'm not quite at the 20-hour work week, but I'm doing something a little different. And like, there's probably not much more than 20 ish hours, 30 hours maybe that actually feel like work because so much of it is like this, I wouldn't consider work.
mhm, mhm,
Um, but, like, how do you get your hard parts of your job to 20 hours? Like,
mhm,
you do it by I mean, simply put, you do it by charging enough money for your services, finding the people who are willing to value your services appropriately so you can hire people who will help you. And the
mhm,
secret about hiring, it's like this is very deep and personal to me because like I always thought I was broken and too damaged to be I'm an effective leader because I'm a nice, sensitive, soft, compassionate, honest, vulnerable man.
mhm,
And when I was going through these really hard times 8 years ago, I had no choice other than to either crumble or, well, I mean, I was crumbling, but like I had no choice other than to like look to my team to support me.
mhm,
And I was too shameful to go above me and like tell my clients that I was suffering. So I don't like the word below, but for the story's context, the people below me, and
mhm,
was honest with them about like where I was at and what I could do. And I really got to see that like they supported me, they loved me because I was good to them, and also like I expected the same of them. I'm like, I don't want anybody working unnecessarily either. I mean, I said to
right.
everybody, if you figure out how to do your job in 20 hours a week too, go for it. I'm never going to be like, you know, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, essentially it is. I mean, there's a little business like wisdom here. I mean, it's charging enough for your services to get help and where you can scale. And also like when you're providing, there is an element of streamlining your service that you need to be doing. If you're providing different services to 10 different clients, you're probably not going to get to 20 hours a week. If you're providing a similar service to 20 clients, it can be systematized, you're getting smarter and more adept in it the more that you're doing it. So it's like it kind of got to the point where once I just focused on my core strengths, it wasn't really hard for me to execute those, but
Yeah.
it takes
Oh,
patience.
yes. I like that. So you talked about earlier, and I know this is something that you've done in your life, which is to align your career goals or professional goals with your personal values. And how can people out there listening, what would you recommend to them? Like, how can they get on the same page with personal values and career goals so that they have greater fulfillment?
Well, I think that a lot of people don't necessarily know their personal values, or they can't articulate them in a way that you can actually start working towards them. So the first step would be to articulate those. And
Mhm.
it's not always easy. I met with a client this morning, and I'm a free workbook that's available on my website to anybody who wants to download it. And it's a 6-step workbook, really the distillation of all the work I've done. And she downloaded it. She found me online and downloaded it. And then she said that she's like, I got really stuck when it came to the plan. Like, there's a planning part. Like, what's the plan to get there? And she was like, I got really stuck. And I'm like, of course. I mean, this is not like, that's why I offer a free phone call to help somebody through it,
Mhm.
because like we need to sort of talk through it. And it's like, God, like when I think about like the first time that I really was able to articulate my values was, I remember I filled out this massive like document that somebody gave to me. It was probably 40 pages of getting to know myself better. So there's an element of getting to know yourself better.
Right.
But like you would have to, I mean, can you articulate your values? I'm curious.
Yeah, I
And what
think
are
I
they?
can. Authenticity is definitely one thing that is really important to me, just being authentic with my audience, the work that I do. It is helping other people. Like in everything that I do, I want to make sure that I'm giving back into a community. And more importantly, obviously, mine is more focused on women, a lot of the work I do. So, in my professional and my personal life, what's important to me, I work in marketing in my everyday life, but I have a team. And what's important to me is to pour into that team to help them
Mm.
grow and help them develop. So, I've tried to align, what I'm passionate about in this business to what I do in my everyday life. And I feel like for once in all the years that I've worked corporate, I finally have been able to like marry those two things together. It's like I want to be, purpose is important. And purpose for me is giving back to other people. It is seeing other people grow, seeing other people find like the thing to them that's like, oh my gosh, that's the thing I want to be doing. And so I help people to foster that and grow that. And I always tell people that I work with, I'm like, it's not important. It doesn't matter if you leave here and do it somewhere else. Like, I just want you to find the thing. And if I can help you get to the thing, then we're going to do that. So, yeah, I think like just really like being authentic in how I deliver messages and like not being afraid to share like my journey with people and then really like being able to help and pour back into other people is like what matters most to me.
That's beautiful. And my values aren't very different than yours. And I mean, I wanted to ask you that because that's what it is. I think a lot of people don't even know where to start. Like, what is a value?
Yeah.
Mine would be authenticity as well, growth. I value consistent growth. And I would say excellence
Mm-hmm.
and vulnerability, discernment are
Mhm,
five. Probably that's probably about it.
mhm,
And I think like, and not everybody has those values. And I think someone said this to me today, and it's like the goldfish syndrome. I think it is, where we're all swimming around in the same water and
mhm.
thinking we're all the same. Like, not everybody has those values, and I
Right.
think
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the first place to kind of
Mhm.
start. Like, those are unique to you. I mean, and you
Yes.
just heard the two of us talk about our values, and if you're sitting here thinking, gosh, my value is I love making people look beautiful, we all have a different set of values, or we all,
Exactly.
and I mean, so the first step is getting clear about it. And then,
Mhm,
I mean, it would be working to like what kind of jobs actually make sense, like what
mhm,
kind of professional life would allow you to um, exist in those values.
mhm. Yes. Yes.
And then from there, like, I work with people a lot on a limiting beliefs around that. Like, so many
Mhm,
people think like, well, I want to be a writer, and like I need to make X amount of dollars. And yes, the reality is that most writers, especially starting off, don't make X amount of dollars, but like there are other paths around that writing,
mhm.
that you can, you love writing, but you also love teaching people. So you can teach them maybe the marketing skills you have, or you can conduct workshops, you can be getting people together. And also what I've found for myself, like leaving, this has been probably one of the biggest surprises that I faced over these past 6 months and leaving my consulting clients behind,
Mhm.
like, I really didn't realize how much I had been trading my fulfillment for money.
Mhm.
And there is a certain amount of money that I need to make, I guess, but I guess need is relative. Like, I live in LA and our life is very expensive here. It's expensive a lot of places now, but like,
Mhm.
I've also started to realize, like, to live in those values, I would rather move somewhere a lot less
Yeah.
expensive. And like, if that, I mean, I've kind of to the point where like, I think I'd probably rather move back with my parents if I absolutely had to. Lucky that's not on the horizon, but like,
Mhm.
I'd rather do that than be so disconnected from my
Right.
values. So,
Yes.
and we think that like this, I can't wait 3 years to start getting traction in this next thing. Well, you realize you have 6 months of living expenses in your checking account actually, and then, your grandma died 5 years ago and left you that $30,000, and then it's like, you also, like, don't mind getting this side job doing something you really love. Your, friend told you she's always wanted your help doing something that you know how to do. Then you start realizing, like, to close this gap for those 3 years, which seems impossible. I don't wanna put a diminishing number on it, but you're only $30,000 behind or something. That $30,000 is probably pretty doable, if you, like, start getting creative and thinking about how you can close that gap. But I think
Mhm.
so many of us just aren't even willing to entertain this, and I hear all the
Yeah.
time, "Oh, well, 30 more years for retirement," and, um, I mean, to each their own, but that's now that I'm on this journey of, like, really building this authentic life, like,
Yeah.
I could not imagine going the opposite way at
Yeah.
this point.
Yeah. No, I definitely appreciate you saying that because I do think at some point when you are on that journey, there are just things you're not willing to trade. And but you're also willing to make sacrifices. And I think that's where it comes into like who's really ready to live in their values, right? Who really needs this because there're just some things that you're like, you know what? Mm-mm, it's okay. I'll figure out another way. Like you said, I mean, there are ways to sort of fill those gaps, but that's if you want it enough.
Can I share something about, like,
Yeah.
what's kinda happened to me over these past few months? So, I've already said I made a good amount of money. I have a good amount of money saved, but I didn't make that money forever. Like, there was several really good years, and the rest of them, I undervalued myself very, very much, like the best of them. And, I mean, and we live in LA. We have a very nice house that we bought when things were good, and, we are having to dip into our savings account a bit right now during this transition. And I remember my coach told me 6 months ago, she was like, "You'll get creative on how you you'll get creative." And then she said, "Well, there's Airbnb, isn't there?" And I was like, "Oh, no. I do not want, like, strangers in my house, like, renting my house."
Mhm,
And then you know what? Like, this cooking part, I'm calling this brand that I'm making. My vision is this is a lifestyle brand. There's
mhm,
cooking, there is, how to entertain, there's a cookbook not too far
mhm,
out, and it's really like hospitality, like
mhm,
helping people make
yeah,
beautiful, like doable food at home.
mhm,
And then in this is also the personal growth part of my life. So that's another pillar. And my partner and I are going through surrogacy right now. So I'm doing all of this, taking this risk when we have another
yeah.
mouth coming in our house to feed soon. But I really wanna talk about the childhood trauma and just breaking generational cycles and how to help people through that.
Mhm,
So, I've started to, like, realize, like, a big part of this is growing an audience, and, like, when you start growing an audience, you start to get really excited about small numbers. You start to think, like, "I'm gonna get, like, 20 new followers a day." It does not start that way at the beginning. So, anyways, I can't believe that I'm saying this, but as I've started hosting these events in my home and I've started to really think about what I want this business to be, and
mhm,
sure, I'd love to make the $1,000,000 a year again. That'd be amazing. And I believe it'll happen, but it's probably not going to happen, tomorrow.
mhm,
But I've started thinking like, you know what? Like I am probably like not even tolerant, but excited about Airbnb-ing out a room in my house. We do have a
mhm,
beautiful guest room and
mhm,
I would have to approve the person. This isn't for everybody, but it would be like the experience, like come
mhm,
on, like, I'll serve you breakfast. Maybe it's specializing in people from other countries where I get to like
mhm,
meet people. I'm talking to them about what I've done and growing my audience. And it's like, it's just, I'm sharing this because it's just like, it shows like how I was so rigid at the beginning. And now I'm like, not only is this like a tolerance, it's actually like, I might actually enjoy that. I would certainly enjoy making breakfast and putting new
Yeah.
sheets on the bed way more than doing work for somebody I don't like. Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we get
No,
creative.
exactly. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty cool. All right, so you were talking about a guide that the audience could download. Can you tell us a little bit more about it and where they can find it?
Sure. You can go to my website. It's mattgerlach.com. You can also type risetoyourworth.com and you can get this guide. It's really a workbook. It's a distillation of like I've spent like over $200,000 on coaching and therapy and personal growth. And it's really what I've learned and what I help people work through. And it's pretty simple. I mean, it's just really like
Mhm,
I don't have like this crazy fancy framework. And I felt like kind of shameful that I don't have this
mhm,
like magic bullet. I mean, a lot of this is like us articulating what we want for ourselves, learning how to articulate it, and learning how to name what's in the way and to work through those barriers. And like, I don't necessarily only help people that want to like achieve more and more and more. It's really people that want the next level of fulfillment in life. And this guide is really it's a guide, a workbook, whatever we want to call it, but it's really a great starting place for you to start putting your hopes and aspirations and listing the obstacles. And in there, there's a link to schedule a free 45-minute call with me. And I'm happy to work with anybody and help you on your journey to living authentically and living within your values.
awesome. Love that. And what's the best way for people to connect to you?
I don't usually give it out, but go ahead and email me directly. That's totally fine. It's just matt@mattgerlach.com. If you can put it in the show notes, that'd be awesome. But
Sure
yeah, just shoot
thing.
me an email. I live in LA. If anyone's in LA that, if you're interesting and interested, I do these what I call the Friday brunch club. And this is what I mean. It's like this just like I've been on this journey of like making this really massive change. That's brave. I've come to learn it's brave that I'm doing this.
Mhm.
And like I just started this Friday brunch club thing about a month and a half ago. And so far, honestly, I don't know that there's anything been more fulfilling that I've ever done. It's free.
Awesome.
It's absolutely free. So I'm like bringing strangers together in my house. I cook for you and like just meet
That's
new cool people.
that's
And
really awesome.
thanks. And yeah, and I do virtual coaching, I do in-person coaching, and I'm putting together like some group stuff. So just reach out and be happy to have a conversation if anybody wants to know more or needs some help with anything.
Okay, awesome. All right, going to transition to three things with Matt. Going to ask you three questions that just helps us to get to know you even better. The first one is a two-parter. How do you start and end the day?
I have a very strong routine when it comes to starting the morning. I wake up and I drink lemon water, and that's like it makes me like breathe better, I think,
Mhm.
like hot lemon water. I meditate for 10 minutes and I emphasize the 10 minutes. I've been meditating for probably 10 years now almost. And you don't have to do a 30-minute meditation. You can, but 10 minutes is fine. And then I love reading. If I was independently wealthy, and I'd probably be fine
Same.
reading 16
Yes.
hours a day, most days of the week.
Mhm,
Read and journaling. I've kind of like been careful. You don't have to do yoga to be a part of my coaching practice to work with me.
mhm,
And I think you do have to journal and read though.
mhm.
Because what I'm seeing, it's like if you're not expanding your mind and you're not like reading things, like you don't know what to ask for. You don't know what's possible for yourself.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
journaling is just like free coaching. I mean, you're kind of sorting through
Yeah.
things on your own and getting to know yourself better. So
Yeah.
I do that and I write. I spend an hour or so writing and then I go to the gym or yoga or hike and then come back and do my thing. And then my partner and I go to bed early around 8, 8:30 and I read in bed for a few minutes before we go to bed and
So,
I'm realizing the phone has crept into my evenings a tiny bit more than it needs to. So I'm currently working on keeping the phone away from me in the evenings a little more than I have been.
nice. All right. Now, the second question is what's a goal or intention that you've set for yourself this year?
Oh, I know I wrote this down somewhere and I wish I see, I mean, I'm not perfect. I should have what was the goal that I said to myself? Oh, crap. It probably was do less. Yeah, it was probably a do less thing. I mean, regardless, I shouldn't have gotten into that so far. But yeah, I mean, right now it's about doing less. Like I literally like I'm waking up right now. Like I met with somebody yesterday and just was like talking to them about my business. I have a pretty significant pipeline right now where I can't even believe I'm saying this, but like I might be full like
Mm,
sooner than later. And then he's like, what's your problem? Like what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know that I have any problems at this point. So what I'm looking to do is to align my life, my days. So I want to feel really good. And I'm still
mhm,
I and I think this is I'm spending a lot of time and effort like trying to understand what's going on. And I think it is just really trauma response from my childhood and always having to be so hyper vigilant. But I pack too much in my days. I just consistently pack more in my days. And that's when I laugh when you're like, you're so productive. You seem I mean I am, but I I'm 41 years old and this is not how I want to spend my 40s and 50s and beyond.
mhm, mhm.
So
Yeah.
doing less.
All right. And the last is, where are you currently finding inspiration?
Oh, reading. I love, love, love
Yeah.
reading. I'm reading books right now. Like, I mean, I read business books here and there, but like, I read a lot of memoir type things, and I'm really interested in building this cooking like
Right.
empire-ish thing. And I'm reading
Yes.
books like by other people who are doing like modern people who are
Doing
building
things. Yeah.
like beyond just a chef. Like I'm not like it's more of I am consistently amazed when I put food down for me and my friends and
Mhm,
I'm like 8 people I'm feeding for like $50, at a
mhm,
restaurant it'd be like 500
mhm,
at this point.
mhm. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, Matt, I have really enjoyed chatting with you today. And I would love it if you could leave our audience with three things you'd like for them to take away from our conversation today.
Journal. Please try journaling. There's no right or there's no wrong. It could be 3 sentences, it could be 3 pages, it could be typed. If you can't journal, talk to yourself in the mirror or in the car, do something to get to know yourself better. Read. If you can't read, listen to a book on tape, I mean a book on Audible or something. If you don't like that, then like watch a documentary and put your phone down. Just do something to start like expanding your mind. Like
Mhm,
nothing that anybody's going through is new. Like everybody's been through everything before. We've all experienced loss and grief and job loss and we've all been unhappy in our marriages and such. And it's like I think that, like, for me, this book that I just read by a woman named Erin French, she's built what I kind of want to build. And like, I'm not like watching or reading this book rather. And it's like this woman like had no money, like 2 times, like literally nothing, like twice.
mhm,
Even the second
mhm,
time had her kid taken away from her. And she's built like this, like Times Magazine top 10 places in the year to visit, like
mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
And if you realize, like, if she can do that, I can do that with
Mhm.
not being to the point where
Right.
I have nothing.
Yeah.
And then I would say the third thing would be get out and walk, move your body. Like I think we think, "Oh, I have to go to the gym." No, you don't. I mean, yes, it's nice, but you could also go for a walk, and that's a great
Mhm.
step, and it makes you feel mentally and physically healthier.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Matt. Great insights, great information shared. Definitely, I'm so intrigued. I can't wait to hear more. I feel like you have to come back again. You have to tell us more about how you've grown your empire.
Thank you. No, thank you. I really enjoyed this too, and just thank you for being so amazing in the work you're putting out in the world and giving us a forum to communicate with each other. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.